Hi, welcome to Grow With Angie. I'm Angie, and today I'm going to be answering all of your questions that come on the Indoor Garden Works Facebook fan page, as well as my Grow With Angie page on Facebook, on Instagram, on MeWe, on Clubhouse, on Green Room, on LinkedIn, you name it, I'm everywhere. And I get a lot of questions on just small tips and tricks. Whether you've already purchased an iHarvest or you're thinking about purchasing one, let's get started and let's all learn something new. I'm going to show you really quick how you insert the little plastic clip into your net basket. That's what's going to hold this in place. Slide it through from the inside out is how I like to do it. Pull it up and clip it over, and it should look like that. Then you're going to take this and find the little notch cutout hole at the bottom of your ring circle. It's best to have the clip at the top to hold that weight. I do move them and rotate them a little bit if I'm trying to straighten out a plant because it's growing crooked, but primarily I'm gonna keep it in that 11 to 2 o'clock range. Reflective covers are one of the biggest things that I recommend. They look like this. There's a hole for your plant or your seeds to come through. Just place it over top of the net cup or your media. They do not stick, they do not hook in, there is no trick to them. They just lay on top and rest inside of the cutout of where your plant is going to be. Because it's black on the back side, it's creating darkness and then slowing down any of your algae growth. But this will be your #1 control for algae. I personally use a lot of pH down, and I purchased a really big bottle which will last me a long time. When you receive your kit, you're going to get 2 bottles of pH. One is pH up and one is pH down. You will get one of these little squeeze bottles. This is to take this tester and use it in this little test tube. But I will tell you, I know putting it in there and squeezing one out will drop my pH. If it's super high, I'm gonna drop it and do it twice. Just knowing every single time this is the same measurement has really helped me out. That pH is very, very important. Do not forget to test your pH. These can be your best friend. They're toothpicks. When your water starts sounding like it's not a perfect rain anymore, and maybe it's just dumping in one spot, or you think you left your faucet running, I've had that many times. I'm in the other room, I think, what is that? Did I leave the faucet on? You're gonna wanna pull the top off, use a couple of toothpicks, and poke the holes out at the top. Make sure that those are clean and that they haven't built up any residue from your food, algae buildup. Poke those holes out, clean them out, and you will have a better funnel of water. Does your pump sound funny? When it kicks on, does it have this big ka-chunk sound or a big vibrating sound? Mine did. This is one of my best tricks. Make sure your pump has just shut off, so you have a good half hour, 45 minutes where it's not gonna kick back on. Don't make that mistake. Unplug the big, huge tubing to your pump and put it up over top of your filter basket. This will allow your pump to free flow in the water. As soon as you hear a little bit of a suction, you know that your water level is too low, but make sure you're paying attention. Only do this if you're someone who's very attentive and you're watching it or you're listening to it every day. But if you hear that suction or that slurping sound, you know it's time to add water. And with the pumps free floating, they're not bouncing on anything, they're not vibrating on anything, and they're super quiet. If you look on the instructions for any of your pH, EC, ppm meters, it says to always make sure that the end consistently stays wet. You don't want the probes to dry out. But if you want them to last longer as far as their calibration, You want to get yourself a little cup, and of course I purchased myself just a cute little measuring cup because I feel like this is a big science experiment, and take some of the water from your tank out. Then leave this in that water. It's always going to be drawing or sensing that pH and EC level. So when you stick it into the water, it doesn't have this big, huge jump. You're not ever risking it drying out. You can actually even turn it on inside of this and then move it over and test it in your tank. Put it back in and shut it off. And always make sure that your probes are wet. If you're growing anything that needs to be hooked up, it's too heavy, it's your sugar snap peas, it's anything that's going to get away from your unit. I purchased this rose trellis back here up on the wall. It's just balanced behind my little cabinet. It's the kind you get from Home Depot or Lowe's, and it's just like a shepherd's hook where it just sticks into the dirt. Obviously it's not sticking into anything. I just have something in front of it to hold it up. But it's a really pretty addition to your home decor, as well as being functional for your growing plants. Now let's talk about my cabinet for just a minute. My cabinet is not just oh, it's kind of pretty and it looks good in my room, although I think it does. I removed the backing to the cabinet. Then inside, I have all my supplies. It's hidden here, as well as all of my cables for all the lights and the pumps. I can get to everything by just reaching inside. Everything's tucked, all the cords in the back. It's also something to hold my trellis up, and having something like this where you can tuck everything in, it's out of your way, your supplies aren't out for everyone to see, is a really nice added feature, and I just can reach in and grab what I need when I need it. If you watched my video on the unboxing and the full setup, I do show you a little outlet square plug that I got on Amazon, and by doing that I can have all of my lights for 2 units, that's 4 lights, 2 pumps, everything is all connected together. Both of the pumps are on one timer, all 4 lights are on another timer, and they all come on and all go off at the same time. Don't be afraid to move plants, tie them up, tack them down, whatever you have to do to keep them strong and sturdy. I have been using this twine that you get to wrap like a little Cornish hen when you're cooking, or your turkeys or your hams, and it works really, really well. I crisscross my yarn or my threads and I connect them to the trellises, or pull them up and connect them to each other. Just this morning, when I thought a plant needed to really be tied down even more, I lost a whole branch because my peppers were getting really heavy. So don't be afraid to tie and pull and hook some things together to give them extra support if it's not something that's going to go off the unit onto a trellis. Maxi Grow is your nutrients for growing your plants. Maxi Bloom is for when your plants start to flower. Anything that's going to start to flower, you want to start adding your Maxi Bloom. What I do and what has worked for me is doing this 2 times in a row, and then on your 3rd feeding, adding this. So if my numbers start to drop, I'll add some. My numbers drop, I add some. If my numbers drop, I add some. Do you get it? That's kind of how I've done it, because I really like the nutrients of this, but I want the nutrients of this. And just to make sure they're still growing good and healthy, because they're a little bit different, it seems to help by using both. You can use pretty much any seed that you want. This is your unit, you grow what you want to grow. And I'm experimenting with the micro seeds and alfalfa. This is all of my alfalfa. Now, why alfalfa? I'm growing it to throw into our smoothies. A microgreen seed is a seed. You just usually eat it before it becomes a plant. Don't think you can't experiment. Try something new. It's always fun to see what happens. Let's talk about fish tank bubblers. If you've seen any of my other videos, you will see I have told you fish tank bubblers. You can find them on Amazon. They're not very expensive. I have one in each unit, and by having everything on the strip cord, everybody in timers, it makes extra space for me to plug them in the wall. The fish bubblers run 24/7. They keep your food moving, they keep your water moving. It's a really nice added feature I personally like in each one of my units. I have found with the suction cup on the cord, it is best to just suction cup it to the side of where the basket sits. What this does is it allows that fish bubbler to free float, just like your water pump, and there's no vibration or noise having those running. And again, as soon as your water starts to get too low, if that fish bubbler hits the edge of the water, you're gonna start hearing all the bubbling and you're gonna know it's time to add water. It takes a little bit of the guessing work out of it for you. When it's time to change out the water in your tank, how do you do it? How do you get the water out? Now, I haven't done it yet, so I'll admit I have not, but I'm getting ready to do that unit over there. I purchased a little mini sump pump, comes with a big, huge tubing. You can use a 5-gallon bucket, probably the easiest thing. Stick this into your tank, pump it out, go dump it in your garden. That's what I plan to do, and keep pumping out until you have most of the water removed or how much this can remove for you, and then start to refill it. If you're just changing water while your plants are growing, I highly recommend a mini sump pump. Now, when you're growing something that has flowers that normally get pollinated outside but are not going to get pollinated inside, I recommend Be the Bee. Be the Bee is actually from AeroGarden, or you could use a kid's electronic toothbrush. You don't have to get all fancy and get the little bee, but I thought the bee was cute. And you're going to go up to your plant and you're going to vibrate on the flower, and then you'll find another flower, and there is pollen that gets all over the edge of the bee, and it's moving the pollen from one plant to the other, as well as just dropping it naturally, making it powder onto the rest of the leaves. And that is going to help you grow your cucumbers and your green peppers and whatever is flowering, your tomatoes. Use a Be the Bee. You just never know what you're going to get with one of these units. Again, it's not perfect, but neither are we. We're gonna learn, we're gonna grow together, and I hope you guys grow with me. Subscribe to my channel, hit that like button if you got any value out of this video, and if you wanna see more of these, leave comments down below. And I thank you so much for all of your support with this channel, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Grow with Angie.